I'm Jeannie and let's get Zebra Strong. Today we're on the letter V in our A to Z of hypermobility, and I've chosen vertebra for the letter V. So the vertebra that run through our spine, we have our cervical spine, our thoracic spine and our lumbar spine. And obviously these vertebrae are designed to act as shock absorbers for us when we walk, when we run, when we move. And ideally, the forces that we put through our body are distributed evenly through the whole spine, through the whole vertebra. Now, not just in hypermobility, but many people have a very tight thoracic spine, so the bit where the rib cage attaches. And their cervical spine, their neck and their lumbar spine can become more mobile. So when something doesn't move enough, other areas have to start to move more to compensate for that. So the body will take the path of least resistance. So that's not ideal because it means that we start to overwork our neck, or maybe we overwork our lumbar spine. And then those muscles get very tight, very overworked, very inflamed, maybe very painful, and you know, obviously related to other joints in the body, could start causing knock-on effects. So ideally, we want to create a spine where the forces are distributed evenly through the whole spine from head to tail, so that not one area is doing too much work and another area isn't doing enough work. So an exercise, for example, that involves spinal articulation would be a good place to start to see where the tight bits and the over mobile bits are. An exercise like a cat, for example, on all fours would be a good example, or a bridge where you're lying on your back and you articulate your spine up and down. These would start to indicate where the very tight bits are. So if I went into a cat, for example, like this, I could collapse here because you can see that I'm kind of very mobile, and a lot of people are very mobile in this area where the lumbar spine meets the thoracic spine. So we can kind of hang out here, which isn't really doing me a lot of good because I'm just creating a big tension in that area. So to start to build stability, we want to try and lengthen that lumbar spine and start to think about bringing the front of the spine up to meet the back of the spine. Now, can we just move the pelvis? And it's kind of like just trying to tuck the tail. Can you see how small the movement is? Okay, and a lot of people have trouble with this because we have lost that ability to really isolate and mobilize the pelvic bones. And of course, if I've got tight hip joints, that's going to, or weak abdominals, that's going to influence that. So that ability to just move the pelvis. Now, if this is really challenging for you to be this way around, you can obviously do your pelvic rolls, pelvic tilting on the back, on the floor. So getting a bit of isolation through that pelvic bone. And then can we gently articulate through the whole spine so that I feel like not one area is doing more work than the other. Now, typically what I see is that people come into their cats and they push up. Because it's tight, people want to get a stretch into that thoracic spine. So they push through their arms and really push their thoracic spine up. Now, that might feel like a good stretch, but it means that you're not articulating through this area anymore because you're just forcing all the way up into the thoracic spine. So what I teach my clients to do is to try and find a softness. So it might be a much smaller cat. Can you see that it's much smaller? But it's much more even in its distribution. There's not a big arc in one particular, not a big sort of hump in the back. So I've got a smaller, gentler cat, but it's got much more control. So I can start to even out the articulation through my spine, through those different vertebrae. Don't focus too much on thinking of each individual vertebra, but just think of trying to even out those curves. Same thing with a bridge or a spine curl. Don't think about pushing each vertebra down, because I find that just causes more tension for a lot of people. Just think about the spine gently floating back down. Try not to do any pushing where you push your hips up or squeeze your glutes and push your hips up or arch your back. I know in some yoga poses they really arch their back. Try not to do that if you have hypermobility, because we want to try and keep that spine nice and long and evened out. So I hope that makes sense for our letter V for the vertebra. Let me know how you get on in the comments below. And until next time, stay zebra strong.